Before we receive instruction of any rule for the eponymous Pretty Boy Detective Club, we are granted with a sort of beginning koan. Mayumi is perplexed at any perceived difference between handsome and beautiful, along with her own self-doubt regarding beauty projecting forth upon the club itself. This is then filed by our youthful crew under what is considered a quote-unquote typical response. There could be no better introduction for the central motif of this series, and this can indeed be seen as well in our very first law: be pretty. This maxim may seem lackadaisical, almost tongue-in-cheek for our setting, but it too is a dictum for the theme of the series: beauty. But what is beauty? How is it measured? Can we put it down in text? How can we even feel the power of beauty? This is the mission of the Pretty Boy Detective Club to find out, both as a group and as a series. In ascertaining these ideas, we naturally run a course to the club itself. After all, that is the main focus. It is less about the mysteries as it is about the process of the club to solve them, but more on this later. The club is staffed by a group of disparate members, all willingly led by Manabu. It is remarked that they would all have nothing to do with each other, even as individual to individual, without Manabu to unify them. It is Manabu specifically who inspires and brings out their very best, and they assume a protective role for his youthful innocence. This unity can be best symbolized in the 5-pointed star, with every member making up one of those 5 points. It may be easiest to draw this out with an analogy of how these members correspond to the human body, and indeed their attributes match this description. Their titles as well show this relevantly in Greek titles, which will be explained and elucidated upon as we go along. The most obvious would be Hyota the Adonis with his legs. Adonis in Greek myth was a blonde mortal of androgynous beauty, so beautiful in fact that he attracted the love of Aphrodite herself, who upon his sudden death resurrected him as an immortal. Indeed, he was a Bishounen, a pretty boy for whom many figures fought each other for his love, from Heracles to Apollo. Hyota's principal trait of beauty lies in his legs, which receive much attention from the camera, and it is a trait by which he is able to provide a base for the group to walk on. His act of Hermes in biking to deliver a message to his kidnapped compatriots in a running car during the crisis involving the 20s was instrumental, for example. To juxtapose this, Michiru the Epicure would represent the arms, as he is the heavy lifter of our clique and many meals are made by himself. His title, the Epicure, is a word of Greek origin which denotes someone with a refined taste for pleasurable food and drink, itself being a reference to the Greek philosopher Epicurus, who advocated a pleasurable, though not hedonistic lifestyle. Moving upwards, Nagahiro the Orator would understandably be the throat, the vocal cords, as he is the kingpin speechmaker and student president. His title as orator is a reference to the Greek orators, as the art of rhetoric was a highly esteemed intellectual profession practiced by the likes of the statesman Demosthenes and the sophist Gorgias. Moving on, we find a quiet Susaku, titled the Artiste. Artiste is actually French, but the practice of art is universal, as much of Western art and even Buddhist art is influenced by the Greeks. Susaku's lack of speaking is curious, and this is because there is a difference between word and thought, as Susaku easily represents the creativity and artistic capacity of the mind. However, the mind is not able to express itself except through that art. It is Nagahiro as the throat that is able to verbalize and ascertain the skill of talking, and Manabu who is able to intuitively understand Susaku's intentions, even without uttering a word. This is because Manabu corresponds to the heart of the group, not simply being the leader, but the one that keeps the blood pumping through every organ in his boundless energy and curiosity. He is titled the Aesthete, a word from the original Greek word aesths, which means person who perceives. Correspondingly, it is exactly Manabu who is able to see above all the beauty in people, and it is for this reason that the other members have flocked behind him and associated with each other. Our protagonist is no different, this being Mayumi the Seer. At first, it may seem unusual for Manabu to be listed as the person who perceives in this group, due to the importance of Mayumi's eyes, but our definition of perceive is more to be aware of or to realize something, that more often than not being beauty. Mayumi simply sees. Her title as seer exemplifies this, as it aligns with the seers of Greek legend who simply receive divine messages, either directly as a vision, in burnt sacrifices, or the works of nature. The skill of a seer is in how they interpret this. That is, there is a chance of human error. Mayumi sees, but she doesn't always perceive. This is Mayumi's key dilemma, seen in her confusion regarding the secret of Toei's painting and in her inability to present an authentic theory for a mystery to the club. Essentially, all 5 members make up this state where they are keen on discovering beauty through a collective effort, for no limb can achieve this goal on their own. It requires the full cooperation of all parts of the body to have this appreciation of aesthetics and beauty in all things, including their own selves. It is through the efforts of this club that Mayumi herself becomes a greater person and is delivered from her former hopelessness. And it was Manabu who first sparked that in her as well as the other members to see beauty through a host of systems. To make another analogy, in Plato's Republic, as well as Politics by Aristotle, they likened the running of a city-state to a ship crew commanding a vessel. Aristotle states that the collective mission of the crew is the safety of navigation, and that each member has a different function towards this end, whether as a rower, a pilot, a lookout, and so forth. None of these men can obtain that end individually, so they combine their gifts. Pretty Boy Detective Club uses the exact same metaphor, with each member occupying a particular role. This connection is even further explicated in Miss Toei only being the leader of the painting of a magnum opus along with all her classmates, and not just doing it all herself. The goal of our club is, as always, towards beauty, with Manabu understandably being the captain that leads them all forward. Perhaps in Manabu, every member finds their inner free spirit, and by their protective nature of him, they not only protect him along with themselves, but also the very constitution of the club itself. This also explains the relevance of his age, still being a 5th grader among his older peers, and why Nagahiro also aims for ensuring that the school he graduates into will furnish the same pursuit of beauty as before. In understanding the exceptional position of this club, we find multiple examples by which to compare it to, and how this affects the fundamental perception of beauty. To start with, there exists the 20s, who are only individually known by their respective numbers. Only one of them we know the name of, that being Rei. Similar to Manabu, she states that she holds the most authority among her group and is also capable of disguise. The 20s are non-individuated. Their numbers are signs of giving exactly this individuality up in service of the collective. But much like the club, all members are essential. This is why Rei surrenders her contract in exchange for the 3 members of her own being held hostage. As part of this non-individuated disposition, her disguise differs fundamentally from Manabu's. Rei wishes to conceal herself and commit espionage or escape, while Manabu disguises himself to stand out and gives vexing speeches about beauty to others all the while. Manabu's brother is juxtaposed with the boy himself, being formerly of Manabu's same disposition, but mellowing out towards that quote-unquote child's play, which Mayumi soon rebukes as the future for Manabu himself. For the free spirit is akin to the child at play, self-serious in purpose, and with that ardent refusal to relinquish himself. But in an extremity to that, we find Laifudatsuki of the Pretty Thug team. For his group, he acts as a school president, representative or leader, man of disguise, chess player, and diplomat, among many more to be sure. All of these roles are essentially ones that are delegated by each member within the club, and it is informative that we do not see any other members of the Pretty Thug team other than Lai. He is essentially the tyrannical approach to beauty, harshly contrasted with the unified effort of each limb in the Pretty Boy Detective Club. And this is the main message of the series itself. This appreciation of aesthetical beauty must come from an effort of the entire body and not by any one organ or limb individually. In this way, the series itself is a mana boost sparking the viewer to do the same appreciation. We may feel aligned to a particular archetype of the club, whether it be Susaku, Nagahiro, or the protagonist Mayumi herself. But above all, it is through the club that we may find beauty flourishing in full. Manabu doesn't simply jump on the most rational theory. Rather, he wants to see the beauty from each part of the body to express itself. To see things as a fully manifested system, rather than just what one favors individually. But there is one last figure that stands out, or more aptly, does not stand out at all. And this is Kenshiro Yokuya. Yokuya is the self-professed representation of a quote-unquote ordinary mediocre student you'd find anywhere. And by this very token, he harbors that hatred for what is outstanding. He is above all the average, the majority, the quote-unquote man of the people. And there is nothing more terrifying, more perturbing, more existentially vexing than to be average, to be just another part of the crowd. Mayumi states her aversion to letting any other member know of this quote-unquote poisonous fang, as many of the other club members do come from privileged backgrounds, unlike herself, who knows what it feels like to be among the masses and to have her view of beauty obfuscated. Then, it is exactly Manabu that purifies this feeling of the audience both in universe and in reality as well. Pretty Boy Detective Club is a catalyzing agent from Nisioisin, much like a Buddha can point the way toward enlightenment. This enlightenment in question, however, is an appreciation of beauty itself.